Hey everyone, this is Dr. Drizzle and welcome to week 3 of everything you need to know about gardens and veggies. We are here today with our rock star expert, Joanna Radford, who is indeed in another place this week. We've had her in her backyard, she's been in her office, and now she's in another sort of garden area. We are so excited to talk about transplanting veggies today. I am particularly excited about this because I am craving veggies. Now, we don't live in the country. We don't have a garden per se. We are growing a few little beans and carrots from our last show, but we're not getting a lot of vegetables in our grocery stores right now because we are stuck here. So, Joanna, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to turn it over to you and let's just share away.
Hi, Dr. Drizzle. It's so good to be here. I'm in beautiful Low Gap this week. So very excited to be here. The mountains are just beautiful. And just wanted to kind of, before we get into today's topic of transplanting veggies, I wanted to show us a little bit about what happened last week with our carrots and our celery.
Nice.
So here we put our kitchen scraps in water, and our carrot tops are coming along nicely. So it's not going to be long, and we'll be able to put those in a salad and be able to eat that. And here is our celery.
Wow.
So in a week's time, it grew very quickly. And all we have to remember to do is keep water in here. So awesome. So today we're talking about transplants. And a lot of folks don't have big areas for gardens. And that's okay. You can grow plants as long as you have some soil. And a couple weeks earlier, we learned as long as you have water. But today we're talking about soil. We have some transplants. And I get really excited when I see them, and I know other people do because the garden centers are going crazy right now with lots of folks, but you have to be careful. Even though you think it's time, you have to look at the weather. The weather plays an important role on how our plants get a good start and an ending start too. But with the beginning start, have you ever thought about when the last frost date is? In our neck of the woods in North Carolina, here in Low Gap, it is around April the 22nd is when we get our last frost.
Okay.
Now, frost is not just a heavy dew. It will actually do damage to our plants, and sometimes if it's severe enough, it will kill them. And then once we have our transplants in the ground, a frost comes, it dies, we have to do all that work again. So we need to make sure that we plant after that last frost date. And I like to tell folks that yes, April 22nd is the last frost date here on average, but that means it could be 10 days sooner or 10 days later. So you still have to keep up with the weather. And in different parts of North Carolina and in the United States, the last frost date is different too. You check on that. You want to make sure that you have healthy transplants, because when we start with healthy transplants, we have a great start. You also want to start with good soil. And what kind of soil do we need? We need soil that can hold moisture, but also have good drainage.
Okay.
This that we have today is in, if you can see this, it's in a nice planter. So it's not a large area. We don't have to have a tractor, even though we like to ride on those tractors. That's not an option here. We got too many hills for that. So we've got little areas that we will use and utilize so we can grow our veggies for the summer. And all these, we've talked about cool season plants. We have one cool season plant, and it's getting a little on the later side to plant it, but we're going to plant it just because he looks kind of puny. And this is Swiss chard. So remember a couple of weeks ago, we had Swiss chard that we were growing in our hydroponics.
Yes.
Well, I kind of fast forwarded quite a bit. It's not been 2 weeks with this, but we did start it 2 weeks ago, and you guys can keep watching it, and it won't be long and it'll be ready. But Swiss chard, it doesn't take very long from the time it's transplanted until some time that we can harvest. So we're looking at a month and a half, no more than 2 months, more than likely. So not very long at all. When you plant, you want to make sure that, let me go back, because I didn't tell you about the soil. We know we need drainage, but when you're filling up containers with soil, you want to make sure that there are drainage holes in the bottom
Okay.
because we don't want our roots to drown.
Sort of like we
So-
did with the hydroponics too, right? We put holes in the bottom of that.
That's right, we did. So everything needs that drainage. Also, with the soil, what we did was we took topsoil and peat moss and then triple ground pine bark and mixed it up. And it makes a very nice soil to grow in. And we added it to our planter here, so now it's ready.
Okay.
It's been here for a little while, so it's a little dry. So after we finish planting, we'll make sure that we water it really good. Because remember, with seedlings, there was 3 things that was very important. Remember this? The wow factor?
Yes.
Do you remember that, Dr. Drizzle?
I do.
Yes, these are the things that seedlings need. So they need wow, water, oxygen, and warmth. And today we've got a lot of warmth out here. We want to make sure that wherever we place our containers that we're growing in, they get to 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. And they really prefer the 8 hours. They love sun.
And that's
Sun
every day, right?
every day if possible. Now, the sun actually helps them to make food. It's energy that they convert into food so they can grow. So it's very well needed. And the green plant, they're green because they have chlorophyll in their leaves. And that's what helps make the energy for the plant, the food for the plant. All right. So now the exciting part. Our Swiss chard is going to take probably 30 or 40 days to actually go to harvest. But we're going to take it out of the bottom. And you see it's kind of all to pieces. So be real careful. And you're going to take your trowel, or you can take your hands too, because the soil feels so good. And you're going to make a little hole and plant it. This is so awesome. And you're going to cover it up. But now you're not going to cover up the entire plant because it needs these leaves on top for the sun to make food. Remember? All right, so we've got that one. Also, I was thinking, what else do I like to eat for the summer? I know that I have Swiss chard so I can put it in my salads. Is there anything else? Is there anything better than a fresh tomato sandwich?
Nice.
Oh my goodness. And we can also put our tomatoes in that salad too.
Right.
But our tomatoes, there's a lot of different varieties out there. I chose one that I haven't grown before. And I was so excited. These, where we grew our own Swiss chard, this actually I purchased. I didn't grow my own tomato seedlings. I cheated a little bit. And I went to one of our local nurseries, Walls Nursery, out on the other side of Dobson, North Carolina. And I got one of the heritage heirloom tomatoes. This one is, it says it's red brandywine. So it's going to be a red beefsteak type tomato. And I chose this because usually they're a little tastier, the heirlooms. They have a lot more flavor. And of course, I wanted that beefsteak size to go on my tomato sandwich. It's a very nice plant. I didn't see any disease on the leaves, no insects. It's very hardy. The stalk, it's been growing for quite some time. And I wouldn't be surprised once I planted it, it won't be long and we'll see some blooms. With the tomato, it's kind of neat for a tomato because when you push these out, kind of squeeze the bottom of the cell and pull with the stem. Don't pull with the leaves because you may pull and damage the leaves. We'll take those off. So can you see what it looks like now?
I do.
You can see some of the roots, and the roots are nice and white. That's what we want to see. No disease present. Tomatoes are kind of neat because when they grow, they will actually produce roots all the way up the stem. Not many plants can do that. But when you think about that, sometimes you'll get these, if it's the end of the growing season, the transplant season, there's some plants that are out in the garden center that looks a little tall and scrawny. And you think, I could, boost it up a little bit and have me some cheap tomatoes later. You can get those. And a trick, since they're so long, and I'm going to plant this right in the center. And you want to dig a pretty deep hole for it to cover up at least what is under here, what it's already in. But with tomatoes, it's okay if you take off the bottom leaves, and you can go ahead. I'm not going to do it too much with this one because it's so sturdy, but those long spindly ones, you can actually bend it over and plant it in the ground. And it's okay because those roots will actually come on the side of that stem.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I may need to actually, this one, very sturdy. This is so great. Make it a little nicer here. Anything that you pulled off, any of these leaves, I'm going to go ahead and take those and dispose of them somewhere else because we don't want to have any kind of mold or mildew to set up on it and promote disease into transplants.
Okay.
So our tomato plant is great. And it may take about 75 days or so for it to actually produce tomatoes that we can harvest. But we're going to see blooms a whole lot sooner. So that's going to be exciting. There's one other plant that I thought that I might like because, well, I just love squash. I like fried squash, I like stewed squash, all kinds, and it's pretty neat to grow. I might find that this is not the ideal place for it, but we'll see. Mainly because it gets so big. I've limited the space over here, or I have a container, different containers that we can put it in.
Okay.
This is just a flower pot, flower container. Make sure they have holes. Remember,
Drainage.
we need the drainage. There's also, you can purchase buckets. This is a food grade bucket, and I think it actually says food grade on it. And it's really good if you can get the food grade. If you recycle, make a bucket, just make sure you clean it out extremely well. And if you can, make sure to see what the plastic is, because sometimes whatever the plastic is made out of, it can drain into the soil and into your plants, and it might not be so healthy for us to eat. So we need to keep that in mind. That's also like if you were going to, you had some land a little bit in your backyard and you wanted to make a raised bed, which we can talk about in a different session. But that raised bed, a lot of people will use railroad ties, but you need to be careful about that because if it's made with the type of material that's on it, the crest coat, then that is sometimes toxic. It will leach into the soil for years and years. And it also, that vapor comes off of it anywhere between 7 to 9 years. So that's a long time, and we want to try to avoid that.
Right.
These buckets, you'll have to drill some holes in the bottom. So that's fun to do, but make sure kids do it with an adult.
Yes.
I also put some gravel in the bottom, or pebbles or rocks or whatever you might have. It does a couple things. I don't have to use all this area for soil because I may not have that much. It also helps with drainage too. Okay. So once you have it in there, I have it filled to about right here. So a fourth maybe of the container that you're filling. And then we'll put the soil on top, and then we can plant just like we have here.
Okay.
All right, so our squash. Squash is neat because it has blooms on it that are male and female. And so you can be real smart with your friends and your family and say, hey, guess what this bloom is? And you can say if it's a boy or a girl. Both of them are yellow. And if you look, the female has a little fruit on here, right at the attachment of the stem. So this one doesn't have a fruit yet. So it's a male. So here's the male. The male has the pollen. And the pollen is, we have to have in order for us to have a squash, because the pollen is usually not wind blown. Sometimes it might be, but not usually. A pollinator comes, and honeybees or bumblebees are excellent pollinators. And that's great to talk about because you know what today is, Dr. Drizzle?
It is Earth Day. Happy 50 years. Yes.
Yeah, So the pollinators will take the pollen from the male bloom to a female bloom. And once they do that, they don't do it on purpose. They're trying to get the nectar and take it back to their babies and their worker in the hive. But when they do that and it pollinates, then we have a squash plant. So it won't take very long to have a squash plant. It usually takes around 30 to 40 days once you transplant it. So in a month or so, hopefully we'll have some squash.
Sounds great.
So, and you transplant it the same way, and I'm real quick, so fun. Make sure you hold it by the stem because we don't want to damage it. And dig your hole and plant it in the same depth as what you've got the soil around it already out from the cell. Now it's kind of viney. That's the characteristic of it. So it's going to flop around a little bit. But now it's ready. This one, as you could tell, it really needed to be transplanted because it's already blooming. And the neat thing is, you can eat those squash blooms too.
Oh, neat.
So that, yeah, lots of that you can eat. Now, we're not really done yet. We have to water it really good. And we'll probably have to water these every day because it's in one of these containers of planters and they have really good drainage. So it's going to drain that water. So we need to make sure we water these every day. There's also one thing, they might need some extra food. The sun can't provide all the food for these plants. And they can't go get it like we can.
So what are we going
to
to do?
We're going to have to find something. I happen to have some fertilizer with me.
Oh, I thought I smelled something.
Well, you can have lots of different fertilizer. And the type you're talking about is organic, I bet.
Yes.
Organic from it's manures from animals, but not human manures. That has a lot of bacteria that's harmful to us. But as far as, and usually what we want to do, if we're going to apply those organic manures, we want to do it ahead of time. So we probably don't want to do it now. We wanted to do it maybe a month or two ago. It's even better in the fall to get ready and decompose a little bit and have the nutrients available for the plants in the spring. But we do have other options. We have this fertilizer. This is synthetic fertilizer. And I say synthetic, but it's from the ground. It's from the earth as well. But it's put into a bag along with, you can get a liquid fertilizer like the Miracle Grow, or you can get a, what is that called? Osmocote or other brands like that. That is a slow release fertilizer. So any fertilizer is fertilizer as long as you have the main ingredients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. What you need to look at, like this fertilizer, it's 10-10-10. And I'm not promoting it. It's just what the homeowner had here on hand.
Right.
It's usually easy to find and cheap. And it has your nitrogen, which is the first group of numbers. Second is phosphorus. And the third is potassium.
Okay.
That's good because the nitrogen provides the green foliage. The phosphorus will provide nutrients for the roots to develop and the fruit to develop and the blooms. And then guess what the potassium's for?
Strong bones.
Strong bones. I would say just about, because it's for disease resistance and root development as well. So good job.
So it's like a multivitamin for plants.
Yes. And some of them will have those are macronutrients, and sometimes we have micronutrients, those that are not as important, or should I say they're as important, but they don't need as much quantity of it.
Okay.
So those are some things that you would probably do. I would go ahead and put some of that fertilizer on now. And you could even mix it in the hole before we plant it, or you can put some around the side of it, which is called side dressing. So you're putting fertilizer here. And you don't want to put it on top of the plant to burn the plant. You don't want to put it, you know, as far as you can either, but around where the roots would be able to absorb that fertilizer. And then you'll water it in. It dissolves and the plant can take it up a lot better that way. Or if it rains, that helps too. So it's just a fun way to grow your own veggies.
I love this. I am so excited because I'm ready to eat some veggies right now, which is kind of cool. So Joanna, if kids and families want to start this now, we have a list of directions that you provided us that we will share. We also, let me give them that address right now. And let me share the screen for just a moment. So everything that Joanna talked about today is listed here on this deck. And you can find this deck at bit.ly/Drizzle Garden. And we will post this with the video. So you can go back through and watch the video. And then if you miss something, you can go back and look at the different plants that you could plant right now to get ready for some summer grazing or feasting, especially that sauce or that squash and those tomatoes. A tomato sandwich sounds really good about now. So Joanna, we're hoping to come back and do something next. I know we had talked about raised beds, so we'll look into that. And just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I can't wait to see what you grow, what you create. And remember, we've already done a few things. We've done hydroponics. We have done perpetual veggies. So if you have pictures of that, please show us. We want to see what you're doing because you are becoming future farmers. And we found out yesterday in our Earth Day activity that 40% of the water in the U.S. is agriculture. So we know we have to be able to take care of our water so we can plant these amazing vegetables and have a good dinner with them. Joanna, thank you so much for today. We appreciate it. We will come back soon and try something else. Hey everyone, Dr. Drizzle out.